again, and welcome back to Mastering Your Money and Biblical Stewardship. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is probably going to be the most important section of this entire video series for many of you, and that is, how do you actually get out of debt? Do you have credit cards? Do you have medical bills, car loans, school loans, dental bills? If you do, you might feel that there's no chance that you're ever going to get out from under those bills. Well, join the crowd. There are a lot of us out there. You're a perfect example of the person we're talking about in last week's memory verse, which was Proverbs 22:7, that says, "Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender." You're a slave to those bills. It's about time you get free. One of my favorite stories in the whole Bible is actually a very good example of how Scripture shows us how to actually get out of debt. It's the story of the widow's oil, and you're going to find it in the book of 2 Kings chapter 4, and it's verses 1 through 7. I want you to go there, and let's read it together. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a little oil." Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." She left him and afterward shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." This is one of my all-time favorite stories. It's short and sweet, and we can learn so much from it. Did you notice how God provided? We mentioned this in one of the previous videos, that God will provide for your needs, and she certainly had a need. Notice how she had just a little bit of oil, and she kept pouring and pouring and pouring into those jars until the jars ran out, and then the oil stopped. So what can we learn in addition to that? How did she do this? What did she do to actually get out of debt? Well, first of all, she sought God's direction. And she also sought godly counsel from godly people. She sought out the man of God, Elisha. Elisha counseled her and said, "Take an inventory of what you've got." And as we often do, we say, "Oh, I don't have anything." Well, I've got just a little bit of oil. So she actually did have something. Now the oil, what's the big deal about the oil? It was a valuable commodity at that time. They used it for a lot of different purposes, cooking and cosmetics and medicinal purposes, as well as many other things, including rituals and even anointing bodies for burial. It was a very valuable commodity. Now, she used the resources that she had. She took an inventory and then used what she had. And a really important part of this I want you to see is that she involved her family. Now, there's a couple of good reasons. First of all, the family needs to be involved in your finances. And secondly, at that time, it was allowed by law that the creditor can come in and actually take you or your family members as slaves to work off the debt. Finally, she took action. You got to actually get up and do something, folks. You can't just keep going the way you're going, or you're going to continue to be in the situation you're in. You have to do something. And then, don't stop. She didn't quit until it was done, until those needs had been achieved. So let's take the financial principles that we just learned from the widow's oil and apply it practically, in a practical application, to our own lives and getting us actually out of debt. Well, folks, I'm a financial counselor in my business, and when I'm talking to my clients, I'm talking about getting out of debt all the time. There are two ways to do this. There's only two options. You can either spend less or you can make more money. Or you can do a combination of the two. But those are your choices, folks. And you don't want to take your financial lessons from the government, because obviously they don't have it together. But first of all, let me pause for a moment. The first thing you need to do is to pray. Get down on your knees and pray and invite God into this plan. He needs to be a part of it, or it's not gonna work. Now, how do you decrease? Well, first of all, stop borrowing money, folks. You can't solve your debt problem by getting further into debt. And it's like a person on a diet deciding they're going to eat more to get out to lose weight. It doesn't work. Or the second option, increase your income. Well, here's one way. Let's think about maybe getting a second job. Maybe getting more hours at work. Maybe possibly even setting up your own business. There's a way to make some more money. How about this? How about you take an inventory of everything that you have? Go through your house, go through your garage, and take an inventory. Put it down on paper. Put an estimate value on each of the items, and then sell the things you don't need. Folks, if you got something in the garage that you haven't seen for 3 years, get rid of it. You're not using it. Put it to some good use and make some money off of it, and then apply that money that you've made to your debt. Now, there's a plan that my wife and I went through, and it works like a charm. It's kind of a combination of the two that we just talked about: decreasing spending and increasing income. Here's the first step of this plan. You take your checkbook register and you take your credit card statements, and you and your spouse sit down at the kitchen table, get a pad of paper and a pencil, and find out where all your money's gone. You can't do anything, folks, unless you know where your money has gone. So find out where all that money went, and be honest. Go back for the past 30 days and write down where you spent money on everything. And then the next step, get out the erasers, get out the scissors, and I call it surgery. Take the list you just made, go back to that list and find out what you don't need. Maybe stopping at Starbucks every morning you can do without. Maybe buying lunch at a restaurant every day you can do without. How about brown bagging it? How about the cable TV that's got 10,000 channels that you never watch? How about the cell phones maybe that do everything for you, including making your breakfast? Do you really need those things? Whatever it is you don't need, stop spending your money on it. Get rid of it. God's not funding your wants. He's going to put together a plan to get you what you need. And with the money that you save by the surgery on that list, you need to apply it to your bills in a plan that I call the snowball plan. We're going to talk about that now at a little bit of length. So let's say you have an accumulated debt balance of about $61,500, and it's divided up among just, say, 4 different bills. Let's say you're paying $50 a month on a credit card, you're paying $60 a month on a second credit card, you're paying $350 a month on a car payment, and a school loan of $200 a month. The total amount that you're paying every month comes to $660. If you keep doing that, you're going to pay an extra $35,000 in interest on a $61,000 bill, more than half of what your whole balance is. In addition to that, possibly more important, you're going to take 18 years of your life to pay it off, and that's without adding any more debt to it. So I counsel my clients all the time on this type of a spending plan. I call it the snowball plan. Here's how it works. We go back to your spending plan. You do your surgery, you cut out the non-essentials, and you don't pay for the Starbucks and so forth. You find $50 a month that you can save. Now, you're probably going to be able to find more than that, but let's just keep it small at $50 a month. So you apply that to your debt, and instead of now paying $660 a month, you've raised it to $710. And that's the most you're going to be paying in any one month, all the way through the time you're debt-free. So you take the $50 a month and you apply it to the first credit card. You have a $60 a month payment on the credit card. You're now paying $110. You pay that in an accelerated manner, and the credit card is gone. You've saved some interest. You take that $110 a month payment and you roll it over or snowball it to the second card that you've been paying $50 a month. Now the payment on the second card is increased to $160 a month. You've accelerated that payment. You pay that credit card off. You roll the $160 a month payment over to the car. And you take that, pay it off. Now you roll that all over to the school loan. You're paying now $710 a month to the school loan. Pay it off. By the way, you can now take that $710 a month that you no longer have to pay on debt and put it towards your savings, your retirement, kids' college fund, something positive. By doing this, you've just saved over $8,000 in interest on the total amount, and possibly most important, you've paid that bill off, the entire debt. You're debt-free in 10 years. You've cut off 8 years of your life that you don't have to pay bills. You've become debt-free, no longer a slave. Now, let me give you a tool to set this up. It's on the website for Crown Financial Ministries. You go to crown.org. You click on the Resources tab. You go to Calculators and click on the Accelerated Debt Repayment Plan. Put in all of your own numbers, all of your own financial situation, and let it calculate a payment plan for you. And you'll be debt-free a lot sooner. Now, folks, that plan works like a charm. And in the past, those people that have tried it and didn't succeed, primarily you can go back every time and find that it was because of a lack of discipline. You have to keep doing it. You have to not stop until you're out of debt. Discipline, discipline. Keep doing it. Don't quit. In addition to that, you're going to want to set up a budget. You're going to want to live on a budget. And I have a rule that I give my clients, and we live by that. My wife and I live on it. I encourage my clients to live on it. It's the 80-10-10 rule. The 10% you tithe. 10% of your income you pay yourself. You save it in an investment or savings account. And then the 80% you live on. Now, one final thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to consider a radical lifestyle change. Folks, something has to change. If you continue to do the things you're doing, you're going to continue to get the results you're getting. So something has to change. Be disciplined. Don't quit, and change your lifestyle. Now, Paul tells us that we need to be content with whatever we have. Turn to the book of Philippians and go to chapter 4, and let's look at verses 11 to 13. Paul says, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through him who gives me strength. So folks, let's talk about a little bit of homework now. I'd like you to memorize Philippians 4, verses 11 through 13. We went through it a little bit earlier. Paul tells us, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I've learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through him who gives me strength. Now I've got a couple of questions for you. Number one question, name at least a couple of things that the widow in 2 Kings 4 did to get out of debt. And the number two question is, what are you going to do to get yourself out of debt? And when are you going to get started? Finally, I'd like you to read chapter 7 of Your Money Counts. Thanks for being here. Enjoy chapter 7, and we'll see you in the next session.